Price per square foot is one of the most misused numbers in real estate. Today, I'm going to show you why it can be useful, why it's usually wrong, and what valuation professionals actually look at instead.
Welcome to ValuTalk, your source for property valuations, real estate insights, and what's really driving the market. And now here's Douglas.
All right, let's get into it. Before we look at any data, we need to talk about why this number exists in the first place. Price per square foot feels safe. It feels numerical, mathematical. It feels like you're removing judgment from the process. That's why people gravitate towards it. It feels objective. When you divide price by size, everything looks comparable. That's the appeal. Suddenly, different houses feel like they're on the same scale. That feeling is exactly why it gets overused. Price per square foot assumes that size is the primary driver. Sometimes that's mostly true, and sometimes it's not. The easiest way to see it is to start with a neighborhood where everything is still simple. This is a newer subdivision with some very clear boundaries. You can see where it starts, where it stops. There's no blending into older neighborhoods. There's no transition zones. There's no mixed development. Most of the lots are pretty much similar in size and shape to each other. The street patterns repeat. The setbacks repeat. There's very little variation with how these homes sit on the parcels. There are a few premium lots sitting on corners up against the open space, maybe in the cul-de-sacs, but most of the homes are standard interior placement. Because this is a newer constructed neighborhood, there hasn't been a lot of significant upgrades. No additions, no heavy remodeling, no shops, no swimming pools. There may be some upgrades available during the original packaging of the home, but not enough to differentiate them from one another. The main difference across the subdivision is model size. There are 3 to 4 different homes, different square footage ranges, but similar in quality, similar in condition. They all have 2-car garages. So let's take a look at the data that comes out of a neighborhood like this. All right, let's pull up our data from that newer subdivision. Quite a bit of data here, but what we're looking to do is look at the sold price versus the gross living area. We're trying to establish, is there a relationship, a strong relationship, and enough of a relationship with this data in this subdivision that price per square foot would work out? So we can go in there and say, hey, this model home sold for this price per square foot, this model home sold for this price per square foot, therefore this home is worth this much in price per square foot. So let's go ahead and look at that relationship between sold price and gross living area. So in order to do that, we're going to use regression analysis, and we're going to load up that same data file into this tool, and we're going to look at the sold date versus gross living area. This is where we're trying to establish if that meaningful relationship and how strong is that meaningful relationship. So let's go ahead and generate our chart. As you can see, there's an obviously strong relationship between sold price and GLA. It's indicating about $189 a square foot. Now, these homes in this subdivision are selling around $250, $260 a square foot. So we've already kind of established that that's kind of failing already, because obviously at $189 a square foot, there must be some contributory value coming in from something else. So while we're here, we might as well take a look and see if site sizes contribute any extra value. $1.97 a square foot for site size. If you were adjusting between a 7,000 square foot lot and a 10,000 square foot lot, that would not be a very meaningful adjustment. An adjustment nonetheless, but not enough to warrant where all that other contributory value is coming from. Let's go ahead and take a look at the relationship between sold price and contract date and try to establish if there's any time, whether the market's increased or decreased during this time frame as well. So let's go ahead and just use the contract date. And there's a bit of a relationship. It's not that strong. $38 a day over 12 months is not going to be a very big adjustment for time. So we've established that obviously gross living area has the strongest adjustment. Site size and time are contributing to that, but we need to look at other factors that may be affecting value as well. So let's run a heat map in that neighborhood. A heat map is kind of like a correlation matrix. We're going to look to see Of the sold prices, the amenities like we have in that data set, what is all this relating to the sell price? What is that relate? Is it got a strong relationship, a weak relationship? And we do that by using a heat map. So we're going to go ahead and browse that same file that we're using. And we're going to get rid of list price and we're going to get rid of sold date. And the reason being is we're using sold date and we're using contract date. We're not looking at list prices and sell dates. We're trying to establish the sold price. So let's go ahead and just generate our heat map. Now, the heat map is showing us a strong relationship between sold price and sold price. We're not looking at that. What we're looking across here, sold price and how it relates to all of these different contributing factors from these properties. Obviously, GLA has the strongest relationship with sold price. But look next to it, bedrooms. Bedrooms and sold price have the second strongest relationship in this data set. Over here's contract date, and then there's site size. They got some relationships as well. Beds and garages and bathrooms were equal, so there's no relationship. But we're going to need to investigate what is bedrooms contributing to the value. So let's go ahead and try to establish some kind of value for the bedroom as well. We'll do that through a paired sales analysis. So we're going to take that same file, and now what we're going to do is we're going to pick the sold price because that's what we're working with, and we're going to look at the bedroom difference. So we're going to look at the average sale price difference between 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom houses in that neighborhood and see if there's any kind of adjustment that we can quantify out of the data for that. Well, we obviously got 3 bedrooms at $455 and $469 for a 4th bedroom. So that's really establishing now that second relationship was the rest of what we were missing in that price per square foot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over to an established neighborhood. We're going to pull that data and we're going to see if there's even a more stronger relationship with price per square foot or a weaker relationship in a more established neighborhood. So let's go over and we're going to do that right now. All right, let's move from this newer subdivision. We're going to come up here and check this one out. This is going to be a more established subdivision. The boundaries are still clear, but it's been around long enough that what's happened inside those boundaries has changed over time. Even though some of the lot sizes are still similar, you start to see more variations and a lot different site utility. Some of the homes have been updated and remodeled. Others are still in their original condition. So we got a real spread in quality and condition with homes that were otherwise pretty similar at one time. Over time, people have added swimming pools, solar, shops, patios, and other features. Those weren't part of the original of development, but they now influence how buyers react to those individual properties. You're also seeing pockets of revitalization, so homes have been significantly improved next to those that haven't changed much at all. That creates a very different market reaction within the same neighborhood. So let's look at how that data behaves when a neighborhood looks like this. All right, let's go ahead and look at the data from this established neighborhood. One thing I want to point out about this data too is I pulled it at the same time period with the same site size range and the same square footage range as I did from the newer subdivision. So in this data, we're going to be wanting to look at the sold price per gross living area as we started when we started at the other data. So let's establish and see if there's a meaningful relationship between those two variables and if that relationship is stronger or weaker than in the newer subdivision. So let's go ahead and pull up our regression and we're going to grab that data file. We got to look at the sold price and gross living area. Let's go ahead and, okay, so what our model says about $100 a square foot. These houses are selling in that $250, $260, $270 price per square foot range. So the whole price per square foot just broke down right here in our first chart. We've already discovered that the price per gross living area is barely, not even half of what the price per square foot these homes are selling. So contributory value is coming from different factors other than gross living area in this established neighborhood. So while we're here, we might as well look and see if site size and time has any big factors to do with this data as well. So let's pull site size first and read. Okay, so our model for site size says about $3 a square foot. The other subdivision was $2 a square foot, so we're certainly not seeing a big influence from site size either. Let's go ahead and look at the contract date while we're here too. $27 a day. It was about $38 a day in the other neighborhood. So again, time and site size, not big influences on value in this neighborhood. Obviously, there is a strong relationship with GLA. It's just not the whole relationship in the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and run a heat map because I'm curious as to what is establishing value in this neighborhood, or if there's anything that's got big value in this neighborhood. Okay, remember in that last heat map we did on the other neighborhood, the gross living area was bright red. So, I mean, there's really, obviously you're seeing there's not a huge correlation in gross living area. What's surprising too is we do have 4-bedroom and 3-bathroom homes, or 3-bedroom homes, and there's no correlation at all. That's even a negative number, but we're seeing some different correlation besides site size. We're starting to pick up year built, and we're picking up garage capacity over here. Time, again, very irrelevant to this data set. So there, since hasn't been a big increase in value over the time period. I think right now we'll go ahead and go in and do some paired sales analysis. I'd like to see see what some of these different variables are contributing to the overall value of these properties. So we're going to go ahead and do a paired sales on that same data that we established out of the older neighborhood. We're going to look between the sold price, and we're going to go ahead. Let's look at that bedroom one first, because I'm curious. The other subdivision had about, what was it, $14,000 difference in bedrooms. Let's look at the average sale price difference for the bedrooms in this neighborhood. Wow, look at that. $402,000 for a 3-bedroom, but only $399 for a 4-bedroom. So there's no correlation in bedrooms in this neighborhood. So obviously there's a lot of other factors in this neighborhood besides the bedroom. So let's pull up some other stuff that we might look at. Let's look at garage capacity. That would be an interesting one. Wow. They're saying there's a huge difference in garage capacity. So this might be something we really want to investigate too. You might have some outliers that are causing this to be pulled up. Maybe this is a property that's got a garage and a shop and a pool. So we might want to look for those outliers. But obviously there's a big relationship with garage capacity as well. Let's look up pools. That would be an interesting one as well. Wow, so pools, we've established about a $20,000 contributory value for pools. So just between pools and garage capacity, we're already making up some of that price per square foot difference between the GLA, the site size, time. Now we're seeing garage capacity as part of the contributory value. Now we're seeing swimming pools are. Let's go ahead and see if there's a solar. Solar's got contributory value to the overall neighborhood as well. So you're seeing these adjustments aren't coming just from price per square foot. We're starting to see, coming in from different amenities, garages. So, there's a lot to establish when you're pulling the data from these neighborhoods. You really got to get in there and start looking and going, okay, what is contributing value to this neighborhood? What is happening amongst these houses? It's obviously not price per square foot. There's something else driving value besides just price per square foot. All right, let's bring this back to the office and wrap it up. In this episode, we walk through two very different neighborhoods, a newer development and a more established market. We looked at how price per square foot behaves in each one. We ran regressions. We looked at heat maps. We walked through some paired sales to show that value isn't always driven by gross living area alone. Location, condition, and amenities all matter. And when you actually analyze the data, price per square foot by itself just doesn't tell the whole story. What you saw were quantitative methods, regression analysis, paired sales, and market segmentations. Those help isolate how different factors contribute to value. And that's the foundation, but it's not the whole story. Because once you start getting serious about valuation, there are other factors that influence price just as much, if not more. Things like concessions, financing terms, and market conditions can materially change how sales should be interpreted if you don't account for them correctly. So in the next episode, we're going to take a hard look at concessions. We're going to break down what they are, how they show up in the market, why they matter, and how to properly account for them so you don't overstate your value and you don't understate your value. We'll also start tying concessions back into the broader framework of time and market conditions. So if you found this useful, the next piece is going to build directly on what we covered today. I'm Douglas, and until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and always stay focused on value.
ValuTalk is produced by Data Hub Solutions. For tools, insights, and more, visit our website at datahubsolutionsllc.com. Stay informed, stay ahead.